coming up on The Source.
The faucet water, the drinking water, or the water that they're using in the kitchens, there shouldn't be that much lead in the water. It has been a huge spike in homelessness here in Delaware.
And an everyday regular person cannot afford that. Like, it is not affordable.
Well, thank God for a single mom who did not forget the struggle.
This is about maintaining power, so they're going to select the best candidate that's going to help them maintain their 7 power.
But one of the things that I'm going to lay the blame again at Hanifa's feet, because she set this council up to be this way. Good evening, this is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
And welcome to The Source. Our co-host will be with us very shortly. She's running late being a single mom, doing all the things, got to pick up, take off, and do things for the children. We certainly understand, but we are going to certainly bring her in as soon as she gets here. Kobe, this week has been a really good week with the murders, the shootings in our city, and I'm very grateful for that. And today we are going to talk about the plan that was given when Shanae arrives. But are there any other things that are happening in around the city beyond, we're going to talk about this whole water thing, that maybe we need to bring some attention to?
No, but I definitely want to hit on what's going on with our water in our schools.
Yeah, well, we might as well go ahead and jump right into that now.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
So again, a few weeks ago it was reported about the high lead levels in our school system.
Yeah.
One school had to be shut down. Numerous schools failed their testing that took about 1.5 years to complete, right? And this is something that is very concerning, because whether it's the faucet water, the drinking water, or the water that they're using in the kitchens, there shouldn't be that much lead in the water,
right?
Which we all know causes all different types of developmental issues, especially for kids who are still growing. And this wasn't just high schools; this was middle schools, this was elementary schools. So we, they have convened multiple meetings. There's going to be a lot of investigation into this. But the shocking point is very few people knew what was going on.
That's what I saw, and that kind of troubled me. And even while they were investigating, very few people were aware of the investigation while they was trying to, we had reported, based on some reporting that we had saw, of them saying that it was. But wasn't there an issue from the mayor or somebody saying that the water was safe to drink?
Well, that was our drinking water here in the city of Wilmington, which would affect all the water that goes out from that source, right?
Okay.
But these are schools up and down the state as well,
so it's a
too.
state
So
issue.
it is a state issue. But, more than 657 water fountains and water sources in 165 schools have failed.
My God. And was there any reason not to share what was going on?
No, so I think they should have been putting this out. Parents should have been contacted. They should have held, honestly, they should probably still hold community conversations at each of those schools that have had at least one area of the school fail.
Do you think that one of the reasons why they probably did not share what was going on is because maybe they felt there would be some liability on the state's part that people would start raising?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think they should look into that, right?
Yeah.
Especially, I know we were out of school for about 1.5 years, but still, how long has it gone undetected? And what will that impact be on those kids who are already outside of the school system?
And that was one of the questions I was going to try to raise as well. Is it because we were out of school and not using those fountains that the pipes became so full of lead, which they should not? But that's one of the things I didn't get an answer to. I don't know if you had heard anything regarding that.
So, it hasn't been a lot of answers. I know State Senator Sarah McBride convened a Zoom conversation, and I mean, you could feel the frustration through your screen of the people talking. Actually, one person called for the National Guard to be called in, and for any school that had a part of the school that tested over 7.5 parts per billion threshold, all the students in the school should be tested for lead exposure and hand out bottled water for the rest of the year until they can actually make the changes in the school system.
Have the state accepted that recommendation?
So, for as far as I know, not yet. I know they're all around the table trying to come up with a plan and an idea and step forward. There are people working on it, but again, this is going to be a major capital projects. Funding that needs to go in, piping has to be replaced at all the affected schools. So.
Well, that's going to be a very major bill, and we don't have all that free money flowing in from Washington that we had at one point. But, I hope and trust. Now, the schools that were founded, it hit all spectrums, or was it more the poor schools? Because all that, I always like to keep at the front. I'm not sure of the answers to that, but was it just the schools in Delaware that were really found, or was it some of the more of the schools that were low income? Yeah,
so it was the not necessarily based on economic of the families that go there, but based on when the schools were built. So the older schools are the ones who were more likely to fail in this testing. Some of these buildings were older than, haven't been upgraded in almost 50 years, right? I think this just highlights the need to really want to dive in and make sure that we're keeping up with the times as buildings start to age.
Okay. Well, we're going to certainly keep our eyes on it, just like we're still watching the Adams Street situation. I see that he's cleaned up most of the stuff around there, but I don't know what kind of work that's being done in there. And then later in your report of stuff going on in Colby Quarter about with the rental, I'm waiting to hear some of the things that's going on with the White House. So we're going to take a quick break. Hope that our sister will be here at that point, and we'll be right back. And we're back. As you can see, our single mom has certainly come back after doing all the chores of the day. And one of the things she said that was very interesting, if one thing goes astray, you got to make things happen. But welcome back to the show, Sister Shanae.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I was making my way here. I'm here, y'all.
And you got here. So we're very grateful for that. What I want to do now is I want to turn to the Colby Corner so that we'll get an opportunity to hear some of the things. And then we're going to really jump into Democracy 2022.
Yeah, so first off, I want to talk about housing in Delaware. It's something that I care very deeply about. And it's, something I've been working on policy-wise for a very long time. Over the last year, so from 2021 to 2022, homelessness in Delaware has not only doubled, it is almost increased by 75%.
Wow.
It has been a huge spike in homelessness here in Delaware. And why I want to really bring this up is because the people who are really being disproportionately affected by homelessness here in Delaware is overwhelmingly African Americans. We make up about 24% of the state's overall demographic, right? But yet, just like our prison population, we overwhelmingly represent the homeless population at about 60%, right? So that is very concerning to me. A lot of homeless is actually based right here in the city of Wilmington or in the surrounding areas. And this is the importance of wanting to really bring in new policies that help keep people in safe and affordable housing, right? We already know that we're in a housing crisis because there's about 26,000 families throughout Delaware that needs housing. We only have enough units for 8,000 of them. So that's 18,000 people are going unhoused or not in affordable housing, right? So now they're depleting their savings, they're struggling, they're behind on bills, or they're, jumping couch to couch or sleeping in their cars or on the streets. That is very concerning, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I know you're going to continue with your report, but also in California, to my understanding, they are running to the point where she's, I think, declaring state of emergency, because of homelessness and how it is out of control. And I often see these things being built here, but most stuff that's being built here is too pricey in Delaware for any homelessness. So I don't understand what is going on.
And some of the things that you can do to kind of mitigate that and bring more affordable housing with development, right? You look at the downtown development fund and you say, look, we're going to have a set aside that says you have to 40% of whatever you're getting from the state has to be used for affordable housing. You look at how you can increase affordable housing, how you can increase workforce housing, because we have a lot of working homeless out there as well too. A lot of people who do get a paycheck, who can barely make bill or can barely pay their bills. And one of the biggest barriers to them getting in somewhere that's safe and affordable is their credit. And it's the fact that they can't pay for the down payment, whether it's for a mortgage or whether it's for renting a unit, right? That's the biggest barrier. So we have to look at laws that we can change. One of the laws that I'm recommending this year is that we do a lease lock. And what that does, it changes the fact that you don't give a lump sum of money for your security deposit. Your rent increases just a little bit for a certain time length of your lease. And you pay into that security deposit. So then when you are past that, let's say 10-month period, your lease goes down a little bit, and then you renew your lease, and your lease doesn't change. I mean, they may increase the overall lease, but you won't be paying that extra, $25, $50 each month to go into your security deposit.
Now, is that something you're doing for the state or just for the city?
That would be for the state. It affects us all across the state. Now, here's the thing. We know that in dense cities like the city of Wilmington, it's hard to have that mass development, right? We're not going to build 18,000 units in the city of Wilmington. So we would have to do that all across the states in key critical areas that are also developing. Newark, Dover, Georgetown has a huge issue, but yet they keep giving money to a white supremacist museum. But that's a different show. The issue is all across, right? They're all dealing with it, but the vast majority is in Wilmington. So if we can work with our neighbor cities and towns to do development there, as well as in the city of Wilmington, and really look to address the needs of everyone across the board, that's how you start to address this issue.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
now I was going to say, like, housing is a big deal for me too, and a lot of the legislation that I have as a council person around housing or the initiatives. And I thought it was really key that you brought up the security deposit. I was working on a piece of legislation, but I found out I can't do it on a city level. But another city in Cincinnati, they passed legislation that says landlords must give renters options other than a traditional cash security deposit, right? So they talked about rental security insurance, installment plans, payment of a reduced security deposit, and landlords who own 25 units or less are exempt from the law. So they had different components of it, which I thought was really cool. But in regards to like homelessness, I know it has doubled in the state of Delaware, but specifically for Wilmington, we had applied to the Landlord Engagement Lab, and the Landlord Engagement Lab, the city of Wilmington got accepted to. So what we're doing now is looking to a different angle, right? Looking at the incentives landlords have in the city to develop, to do the right thing, right? To make sure that they have housing that's livable, housing that's affordable. So we're looking at developing and finding strategies to engage with those landlords, to talk about, to decrease evictions. How do we keep people in their homes, right? Landlords is one obstacle and one way or strategy we have to go about. How do we work with them to build a better relationship? Because in the city of Wilmington, we have this narrative, all landlords are bad, right? We just paint them all as bad. And some of them are really small mom and pop landlords who are just trying to make it just like everybody else. And then when we think about like the city of Wilmington and we think about the historical redlining that happens, if I'm a landlord, I own 2 properties, I live in the city of Wilmington. If my area is redlined and I'm trying to get a loan to get my roof fixed, how is that? I don't have access to that equity to be able to provide that stable housing. So we have to look at all of those things instead of just saying bad landlord, having those conversations. And I know on the state level, there's a Harvard program that they're applying to look at homelessness throughout the state on eviction. Because I asked, hey, I want to be a part of it. Can the Landlord Engagement Lab be a part of this conversation on a state level to try to address homelessness? So it's a big deal. And it's unfortunate that we have to even talk about this and that you have to work to get a house, and people are working but can't afford it. You have to have
Right. And
affordable
that's what the
housing.
real thing is, the affordability. But you know what I think also we added to, because you've brought, both of you have brought some very strong information, but I think we should add to that by saying, what is Wilmington Housing Authority doing? There's a lot of units here in South Bridge, over in the over there where the projects are, what are they doing with all those empty units? It's too many. There are, and who's leading? When I say what is Wilmington Housing Authority doing, I'm talking about its leadership, what they currently have. Is it being maintained right? Is it are all of them filled? Because what I'm seeing is that a lot of times a lot of places are vacant.
Mhm.
And if a person says they're going to fix their property up and they don't fix it up, and it was affordable housing at some point, when do we start saying, you know what, it's time for us to move on their behalf?
And I think that conversation is starting. They have a new
Okay.
director at Wilmington Housing
Okay.
Authority, Mr. Raymond. He's going to be a part of that state Harvard program for technical assistance around homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
So I know he's definitely going to be a part of it. I know Eugene Young, he's over at Delaware
yeah.
State Housing Authority. No, Delaware State Housing Authority, right?
Yeah.
So I know that we have some good people in good positions
Okay.
now
Good.
to
Good.
at least start the
Good.
conversation and map it out to see what that look like. So I feel like right now in the state of Delaware and the city of Wilmington, I feel like we're moving in the right direction
Okay.
because I feel like we have good people in seats who care about issues like that. But that's my
Yeah, and
perspective.
I just want to break it down real quick. In the state of Delaware, we have 5 housing authorities: Wilmington, Newark, Newcastle, Dover, and the Delaware State Housing Authority that covers most of Sussex, Kent, and then wherever those areas aren't, especially like Middletown area here in Newcastle, is for all fall under the state housing authority. But the state housing authority operates more like a bank, in my mind, right? They're the ones who are facilitating these deals to get new development going, right?
Mhm.
But they can only do so much. They get the federal dollars in,
Mhm.
but they have to have partners. There are so many different options for developers, especially black developers, to come in and say that we're going to develop a property for you. We're going to pay, 100,000. The property's probably going to sell for, I'm just throwing out
I
numbers.
understand.
We're purchased the property for 100,000. We put another 100,000 in. Property only sells for 100,000. The state will come in and give you the difference, right? In an additional 25 or 20 to 25K for developer fees, and let you move on to your next property. And now we have a new house developed, ready to go under them, right?
Mhm.
So that's the type of things we need to start working with the Delaware State Housing Authority on. When it comes to Wilmington, Dover, Newark, and Newcastle, we need to see those better operating, right? All 4 of those have long wait lists,
Yeah.
long waiting lists. And if you look at it, where the homelessness is, right, 34% is in Sussex, but Sussex only is about 23% of our population.
Wow.
Kent County makes up about 18% of our population, and 23% of the homeless is there. And then the rest, 43%, which is the
Mm.
big chunk, is in Newcastle County, with the most of that being in the city of Wilmington.
Yeah.
So that's what we're dealing with. But of everything, all the numbers, data I've said today, the most outstanding number that stuck out to me is the fact that homelessness among families, right? That's individuals who have kids under 18,
Mhm.
have tripled over the
Wow.
last year.
That's
It's
scary.
tough out here.
It's
Yeah.
really
It's
tough.
real,
Yeah.
okay?
It's
Yeah.
really tough.
It's tough. And I know specifically, I was working with Councilmember Gray, and she had transitioned earlier this week, but we were working on legislation for inclusionary zoning.
Mhm.
So with the inclusionary zoning, if they build 100 units, at least 20 or let's say 30% of those units have to be affordable. And I'm not even just talking about low income. I'm talking about like a regular person, we're making maybe $50,000, maybe got 2 kids, to be able to afford to live in a rental unit downtown or really anywhere in the city. But specifically, we know where all the apartments are being built, which is downtown and
At
the
this point,
riverfront
yeah.
right now. And an everyday regular person cannot afford that. Like it is not affordable. And we have to increase affordable housing. And we talked about a housing trust, and then having those conversations with Newcastle County, who has a housing trust, right? Where you're investing constantly into housing and affordability in your city or state. So it's
Mhm.
needed.
Well, and we're going to move on because I know you have a couple
Yeah.
more things you want to do, but I just want to say this: we one of the smartest moves that Wilmington did is elect you as a city council person, because this has been one of your passions. And I'm noticing
Yeah.
your voices in a lot of this areas to make sure we're moving people forward. And this is the area that you're really working hard. So thank God for a single mom who did not forget the struggle and who's not forgetting the struggle. And
Right.
you're working for the voiceless. And we appreciate that. I know I don't want to run all your time.
Yeah, so again, staying on the housing point, there was a meeting with the White House that took place earlier this week, and that meeting was about tenant protections and rental affordability, not just in Delaware but all across the nation, right? So everyone's feeling the
Yeah.
pressure right now when it comes to rent and everything. So the root of that discussion was, how do we ensure everyone has a right the tenants have a right to safe, decent, and affordable housing, right? And looking at some of the things that was discussed was, how can we have clear and fair leases, right? No more small print stuff that gets people trapped, messes up their credit. There are people out there who want to pay their bill on time, but there's all these extra fees added in that they didn't know about when they first signed that lease. Also, how can tenants organize without fear of retaliation? How the DOJ is actually enforcing the Fair Housing Act, right? And seeing what needs to be changed around to make sure that is happening on the ground, right? We can hear about it all day long. They can have someone sitting in the office who's supposed to be assigned to that. But how's it happening on the ground? Advancing fair tenant screening practices and safety, and really pushing for states to do more there, and utilizing best practices when it comes to eviction diversion, as well as making sure that due process is happening, and fair proceedings are also happening. So a part of that is a bill that we have been working on here in Delaware for about 3 years now, that we're looking to reintroduce, and that's the Tenants Bill of Rights. That, and also a part of that, it's going to have the right to counsel a part of that, so that if you are going into court, we know in Delaware, 83% of tenants who go into eviction court are going in representing themselves.
I don't know.
Whereas it's almost the exact opposite. 81% of landlords are going in with representation.
Oh, wow.
So, and then the last part I want to talk about real quick is Nancy Pelosi has decided not to run for Democratic Party leadership in the U.S. House. This will be the first time in 21 years that she has not been the leader of the party, and almost, I think it's 26, 27 years that she hasn't been in party leadership on that level. She was elected in 1987. And she has had a historic tenure as leader of the party, 2 stints as Speaker of the House, which is almost unheard of. She's the first woman in leadership, first woman in high leadership, and the first woman to be Speaker of the House. So why we did lose the House, the U.S. House, the Democrats lost the House by a little bit. It's looking like. Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be that 10-seat margin, 222 to 212. But she's still going to stay a member of Congress. And then her deputy, the guy who's kind of followed in her footsteps for these last 20 years, Steny Hoyer from Maryland, has also decided not to run for leadership as well, too, which clears the way for most likely to be the first first leader of a caucus in either chambers to be a black man, and that's Hakeem Jeffries from Brooklyn. He now represents a small part of Queens as well, too, but a young,
I hope he gets it.
Black man.
I do hope he gets it, because I was concerned, and y'all can get mad at me at the table, but I was concerned that it would be somebody too far to the left. I am not interested in the lefties or the righties. I'm interested in those who can meet in the middle of the road and make sure they provide what we need to provide in order that humanity may survive. But some of the lefties, and I ain't gonna talk about y'all, but some of y'all left, it's just crazy.
He's still progressive, but I think he does a good job at being able to work across not only his caucus, but also will try to work across the aisle to get things done.
Well, and I'm gonna be honest with you, the kind of aisle crossing, I ain't interested in that neither. I'm not, because they are very I'm a Republican, so I'm going to do it Republican only. I'm a Democrat. I'm interested in the Democratic agenda, taking care of the poor, making sure that we're providing the essentials for life. Okay, but when we get to a place where we're just being too far fetched, some of the policies of the Democratic Party is just too left for me. But it is what it is, and that's when we start arguing at the table. So we've had a good morning so far. So we're going to try to chill out. We'll be right. Oh, was that all yours?
That's all I got.
We'll be right back. And we're back. We've added a segment to the show talking about Democracy 22, and we're in the heart and the heat of one of the council seats being filled, and 18 people applied. Now, look, I'm going to be asking y'all some crazy questions, so y'all get to answer if you want to. But first, there's 18 names there. I mean, I want to say all of their names. You have one name is Ridge. What is his name? Hood. Ridgeway?
Ridgeway Hood, Nancy Lopez, Justin Wright, William Wilmore, Wayna Dobson, Andre Harris, Letitia Tish Bracy, John Johnson Jr., Kathleen Patterson, Charles Vincent, Devin Marquis Hall, Jan Shin, Deborah Crack, Gary Linda Dushki, Don Farrell, James Taylor, Sam Guy, and Jeffrey Santoro.
Okay.
Now, two of those names, though, are ineligible because they don't actually live in the city of Wilmington. One of them has a Wilmington address but lives on Kirkwood Highway, and the other one he lives in Newcastle.
Well, who did the vetting? I mean, why is it on the list? That's the first problem.
It's on the list originally, but they let you know that you've been ineligible.
No, you don't send this list out to the public if it's a person who's not eligible. Where's going on with the competency? That's the first problem I'm having. Okay. Now, who are the two again?
Rigney Hood and Yan Shen.
So neither one of those are eligible because they don't live in the city.
Correct.
So in other words, they gave an address that was outside of the city.
Correct.
But there's some people on that list that probably don't live in the city and gave a right address, but we're not going to go there for right now. All right. So our first question is, what are we going to do? Who's going to get this job?
Yeah. So at this point, right, it's the qualifications are you just have to be a Democrat.
Okay.
You have to live in the city, and you have to be 25 years old because it's
So-
at large.
That's it.
It's at large. That's the only qualification. If it was a district seat, you would have to live in a district. But because it's at large, you could be anywhere in the city. Right.
But and before you go any further than that, then the question is to Shanae is, then do you all have a standard that y'all looking for? Oh, and I don't want you to speak for everybody. Maybe I can just ask it for yourself. But is there anything came out of city council to say we were looking for a person who live in the city, which is the requirement, who's 25, which is the requirement, and what was the last one?
25 Democrat.
And you're a Democrat. Now, we know that's the general standard. But is there a standard that the committee is looking at when they're looking at these 18 people? Now,
In my opinion, no. With my time being on city council, we had one appointment and it was not based on any criteria. Honestly, it's based on who you know. It's based on favoritism. And that's what happens in this seat. So, and it's also based on power. So there has been a divide in city council. Where there was a group of 7 people who got together, and then automatically when you're not a part of that 7, you get placed into the other group because I'm not a part of any group.
I see.
Right? But however, on the 7 side, they took over council and they want to maintain their power. So they lost Loretta Walsh, who passed away, bless her heart, about a few weeks ago or 2 weeks ago. She passed away. So now they don't have a strong 7. So their goal would be to get a strong 7, right?
Would you make that 7 up?
Would I be a part of their 7?
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to be a part of that 7. A lot of them were endorsed by the mayor administration, and I don't align a lot of my ways of thinking with the mayor administration. So I am not going to be a part of that 7. Am I always willing to work with someone if they have great legislation? Yes. I have supported, James Spadola had a legislation about quotas on arrest in the police department. Me and him do not align. But for that piece of legislation, I support it. I'll be a co-sponsor. So I'm for great legislation. I don't care what side it is on. However, but I'm not going to be in cahoots at their secret meetings. I don't know who house they're going to go to now because Loretta Walsh had passed away. But whoever house they go to have these meetings to kind of come up with their plan. But I'm hoping that, but that's hopeful that the nature of this would change, especially with some people like transitioning or leaving from city council. But that's going to be really hopeful. I have to just assume that it's going to continue to be the way it is. So with this election or this appointmentship, I think it's going to be the same thing. How do I maintain? Everyone is thinking that. How do I maintain my power or gain power? And for them to maintain it, they need to get a strong 7.
I hear you. I cut you off. Go ahead. You gonna add something?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add. So of the 16 candidates qualified, 6 of them put in last time. It was an opening at large.
Oh, they did 16 of them. No, who are the
Six.
6 of them?
6 of them.
Okay. You remember who they are?
I only know a few. Remember a few of the names, and that's John Johnson Jr., Kathleen Patterson, D. Marquis Hall, Deborah Crack, and Don Farrell.
Okay.
All put in last time. It also has a list. It's 2 former at-large council people on it.
Okay.
Justin Wright, and Sam Guy, and then also you have a few former candidates as well too. Most notably Wayna Dobson, who came in a very close 5th
I
place
remember that.
when she ran for at-large. Not this last go round, but the prior year, so 2016 election cycle. So there's qualified people on here, people who have been on the ballot before.
Let me ask, will y'all look at that? Like, for example, he just shared that Wayna came, she was like right there, but she was the 5th and you only needed 4, I think it was, right? So do y'all look at things like that and say, okay, well, the people wanted her or not? I don't know.
If they're looking at it, I'm not a part of that.
Oh, okay. I'm just trying
I
to
don't think they are.
No,
I think this is about maintaining power. So they're going to select the best candidate that's going to help them maintain their 7 power.
Well, go ahead.
Right, and I think first off, this system, it has been said time and time again that every time we do an appointment, dating all the way back to the first one I remember, which was when Gerald Brady first got elected to the General Assembly, and they appointed Tracy Schofield to replace him. They said, before the next vacancy, we're going to change the city charter to have special elections. And from that, you saw Tracy Schofield get appointed. Then you saw Campbell Hayes get appointed. Then you saw Eric Robinson get appointed. Then you saw Linda Gray get appointed. You saw Chris Johnson get appointed. You saw Al Mills get appointed. You're about to see someone else get appointed again. There has been multiple times that they say this after each and every one, that they're going to finally replace the system, right? But they haven't. I think it's time, especially now that you're seeing in just one cycle alone, you're going to have 3 appointments.
Yeah.
So it is time for city council to come together as a full council and say, look, it's time for special elections to give that power back to the people. Because what it used to be is, it would maybe happen one session and wouldn't happen for the next 2.
Right.
It has
I'm
happened
gonna
3
dive
times.
into something because we did that. We passed a resolution. So there's resolutions you can create on city council, and then they go up to the state, right? So we created a resolution, and everybody said, yes, we should have special elections. People should be able to select who are in those seats.
Okay.
However, the next step is, and I think there's a big disconnect, is city government with state government.
Okay.
Right. So we want a lot of things. We'll pass resolutions up, but our state delegates do not pick it up for us to make sure the torch is going on and that it passes. So that's a lot of my frustration too, that I realized as a council person. I used to say the same thing. Why don't council just do this? There are a lot of constraints to being a council person and a lot of restrictions put on by the state to the type of power and authority that city council has. We do not have a lot of power. We do not have a lot of authority. And then you have an administration that treats us like a kid. So it's a parent-child relationship. It is not equal branches working together. It is literally a parent telling a child what to do. And then you have the state government who does not respect city council because of this dynamic. And then this this dynamic, right?
Yeah.
So it's really hard to say, oh, city council should do that. I know on council, I have vocalized it. We put up a resolution. We did this. We're pushing it. But then also with city council, every year on the budget, I say we should get a lobbyist. The city government, the administration has a lobbyist, right? The lobbyist goes down to Dover and advocates for other legislation they support and ones that the mayor administration wants. So they have a designated person who goes down to the state to advocate for the mayor administration. We don't have that as city council, right? And a lot of the arguments for me, towards me about not having a lobbyist is that we can do it as council people. One, this position is part-time, but I'm doing full-time work. And now you want me to add on being a lobbyist? And they was like, well, you're friends with some people down there. Being a friend and lobbying are two different things.
Absolutely.
Okay, I know people down there, and I know people would support me who are down there. But lobbying is different than being friends with someone, and you can't just use your friendship to do that. I don't like doing stuff like that. I operate on a very different system where, listen, I tell some people down there, I love you, but I don't like your bill and I'm going to come for your bill. So please don't take it personal, right? So it's two separate things for me in my head when I think about my friendship with legislators and I think about the legislation piece, because I can love you dearly, but I'm going to go after your legislation.
Well, in actuality, that's being a good public servant, to be very honest with you. But you just said something, and I think what we got to do is start getting focused. Because you said that y'all did. Now, your response as a regular layperson, city council needs to fix this problem. She
Correct.
said we fixed it. However, our
So-
delegation.
Yes, they did pass something, but they waited way too long, and that's my issue, right? So, the council seat that was filled by Al Mills was filled in February. The resolution was not sent to Dover
Till
until
June.
the last week of session. Almost no new legislation gets introduced that time. You had so many months in between to get this done so that they could work the channels at that time. And everyone knows this down Dover. At this time, especially at the end of a session, you're trying to get all your bills you've been working on for the last 2 years done. You're trying to get the budget bill done. You're trying to get the bill done. And then you're also trying to get grant and aid. So you're hearing from a lot of people, and it's a huge push. During those last few days and that June 30th late night, bills that were not down there in time do not get heard. So you have to also recognize the schedule that you're on. So when you have almost 4 months in between to get this done, because charter changes, once it's enough time to get them down there, get a sponsor on both sides, they fly through. But you can't send it the last week of session and think that it's going to get through with hundreds and hundreds of bills. Literally, I used to work down there on that last night. My last year working down Leg Hall, we ran close to maybe 130 bills. It's just no time to get additional new stuff in that people haven't read.
So what about her comment, Shanice's comment of having a lobbyist? Wouldn't that person keep you on track and tell you what needs to be next?
Yes, that person would help keep you on track on the schedule and everything, and let you know you need to get your bill in and down there sooner and have that better communication. Talk to who in a Wilmington delegation on the Senate side, who in a Wilmington delegation on the House side, going to be sponsor of this, are going to carry the brunt of this, making sure they're talking to their colleagues. Because while City Council is only made up of 13, on the House side, there's 41 individuals that represent 41 different communities throughout this state. And there's a lot of differences. And then on the Senate side, it's 21 different people that you have to try to get on board. So it's a lot of work to corral them. But usually for charter changes, if the council, town, mayor are asking for it, it usually flies pretty fast. But you just have to put that back end leg work in.
Well, I hear you. So now we got that on. City council did something, because I was ready to say, well, which of our delegation is not doing what they supposed to
No,
do?
it's both. It's city council not having the system
Okay.
to do the things right to get down there. And then even outside of that piece of legislation, we have set other things ahead of time, and they have not been picked up by any of our state delegations. So it's both.
Well, we have to start calling that out. The purpose for why I want this show to stay strong is that we're going to have to start calling out people that we're friends with. I like your philosophy. You're my friend. but I'm representing your people. See, that's for those who watch me, I'm a pastor as well. And it's interesting because that's exactly the attitude that Esther had. If I die, let me die. My people are dying, and I'm not going to sit back because I have some privilege and let them die. And that attitude is really what we need in our public servants today. So we have these 16 ready to roll people, and I'm still trying to figure out who's going to get it. You got any predictions?
So I think they're going to look at a few things. They're going to look at who can best work with them. Right, it's probably going to be the number one
You mean the
priority.
people who she mentioned, who are the power, or the council at large?
I think everyone should be looking at that. Right.
Oh, okay.
That's what you think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who can best work with everyone, right?
Okay.
And then also who can best serve the city's needs, right? So at large is a little different than district, but who has that experience, who has those connections to really bring new perspectives in, and who can also uplift the community that's not being lifted right now. Now, what I think will happen is. They probably already, there's probably already a group that's being circulated, right? Of 2-3 names that they want. Who those names are?
You circulated where?
In between them, in their their
right.
secret meetings.
Oh, okay.
So, amongst that group, I have no clue where they're going to lean. I know people who've had close connections with Loretta Walsh have put their name on this list.
Okay.
Including one, Kathleen Patterson, who was, almost like an aide to her, especially as she was coming into council meetings before the pandemic and stuff like that. I know those two were very close. So I don't know. I don't know if Loretta had conversations with them about who she would want to replace her and carry on her legacy. But those conversations are going on right now. And anyone to say that they shouldn't would be very naive, right? Those conversations, the second people found out, the second people found out that Loretta was going to be stepping down, people probably started having those phone calls, and that's why this system should be a special election, in my eyes.
Well, it's only 11 of us now, so they don't have a strong 7. So they're gonna have to win some people over for whoever their pick is. So they have.
Well, they don't need 7.
Well, you don't need 7.
Whatever your council is.
Oh, you only need 6.
So
Okay, I thought you still needed 7. Okay.
No, because you got to go off of the council.
It's the majority.
Of the council, and so that means they need
They got their 6. Never mind.
It's not her. She did. I think 6. Well, that's interesting. I'm just going to be interested. But you remember my prediction? I should. What part of this does the mayor play?
He has influence over it, and he's probably reaching out, letting them know where he stands on some of these picks as well too. So, and that's how it works, right? The governor does the same thing. When it comes to appointments and stuff like that, if what you want to see.
What you want to see, and if you want to fund something in your district, you gonna vote my way.
I mean, I'm not that type of.
I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. But I see these names. I don't know 90% of the people on here, and I don't get involved in it. I just want to make sure whoever it is a person who understands the city, who will be neutral. Yeah, but be neutral and hear what is happening and whether or not it's sound. Because right now we talked about homelessness, we talked about the crime, even though it's down this week and last week. These are issues that we want to make sure that whoever this person is, they are thinking about it because they are large. They're not just for a district.
Well, I think all of us think about it on city council, right? But I just also think it's about how we implement it or initiate it, and then because we all can talk about affordable housing, but some people might be against inclusionary zoning, because inclusionary zoning means big developers like BP&G will have to now develop for affordable housing, which they really aren't doing now, right? So they're going to have to do that. But if I am a council person representing that district, do I want to make someone who funds me mad? Right? If they fund my campaign and give me my money and help me run for office, do I want to upset that person? I might believe in that. But I have this
Wow.
Complication right here.
That's why I stayed out of politics. I just have, even though in church you have it too, but it's not to this level. It's just too much going, too many dynamics. And I just hope and trust that we are able to get through this because this is going to be funny. Now tell me the process. So now we're at the candidate. We all know who the candidates are. Is there interview scheduled for? Is it all the candidates getting interviewed or just certain ones of these 14?
So everyone would go through the interview process. So how we did for Rashima's seat, we interviewed everyone, and then we went into an executive session, and then we were supposed to give 3 names of people we want. However, that didn't happen. People just gave 1 name, and it was all that one person. So that didn't happen. So because I went in with my 3 names, and then everybody else was just like that one person, and we already know who that one person is.
Yeah, but the question is, even when you went in with your 3 names, was that one person? I guess I can't.
No.
So they never even heard. Oh, so why? That doesn't make sense to me. Why would they say everybody come? Let's narrow it down to 3. Let's just say 3.
Okay, this is a show.
Okay.
Keep it real with y'all. This is
Please.
the show. They're about to interview people. This is a show. I'm gonna be honest. They're gonna waste all of our time if they have their pick already.
Oh.
They have their pick. This is a show to make it seem like the process is fair, it's equitable, it's justice. And then we get into that meeting and they already have their pick. Everybody has one person.
Wow.
That's not fair. And then like people like me, I don't feel like I get to participate in my government because my voice doesn't matter because I'm not a part of the majority, right? And that's just how government is, right? Sometimes you're gonna be part of the majority, sometimes you're gonna be part of the minority. So I'm okay with where I am, but I understand that who I select, who I think will be great for the city is not going to match up with the majority. And when I go into that meeting, people are not going to come with 3 names. That's not what happened the first time.
But you know what?
Honestly, it was a waste of my time.
And I feel bad as a city council person that you were even in that space because it should not be that way. But one of the things that I'm going to lay the blame again at Hanifa's feet, because she set this council up to be this way right now. Even with all the power that the 7 had, if the agenda could be set, if all the things that could have happened with the president of city council leading, it would have been a better day. We could have gotten some things done. But the way it is set up right now, it's like the president of city council is just the person who's over the meetings and get a vote. And that's not fair.
That's pretty much it. And that's what happened. And like going in, especially as a new council person, I just wanted to do the work. Like I wasn't thinking about sides, who on this side, arguments and the beefs that were going on. Like I just want to do the work because prior to being sworn in January 2020, Trippy Congo, who's now the president, he was representative for 2nd District. They kicked him off of council because of his address. Because remember, he didn't live in the 2nd District anymore. So they said he didn't. So they kicked him off and they wanted me to replace him, right? And it was like a whole legal proceedings going on. I told her, President Hanif at the time, I'm not going to join until y'all figure that out. They try to they think they can control people and tell you what to do. I have to tell her, no, I'm not doing that. Y'all go figure that out. I'll see you in January.
Okay.
Right? So like you have to like stick up to these people and tell them like no. And like that was like the power control dynamics. And she like tried to bully me into like trying to get on the council to replace Tripp.
Sister girl ain't trying.
Yes, she did.
Why y'all messing?
Yes, she did. And then she called then I had like a interview for Black Mothers in Power, and she tried to cancel that with WITN that I was having. I'm like, how are you going to impact my nonprofit because of something with city council? So I end up after much going back and forth having to have that interview. But she tried to stop it because of me not wanting to join council early. I'm not playing the games with them.
The dirt and dirtiness of the
I can write a book. I've been in council for 2 years. I can write a book about this, and it's a lot of games and this fake message that they give to you that it's an equal process and justice when people are excluded from conversations and they are shunned, and if they don't fit in with the majority, they would try to bully you.
Well, the good thing about it is God has given you an opportunity to have some voice with this show and a couple other places. You have to continue to stay in strong, and being alienated is really a setup for you to be stronger. So it will break at some point. the exposure of wicked and crooked people will always be exposed. And hearing some of this is just disheartening, but it speaks to why we don't get anything done in the city too much,
Let's
because
talk
people
about it.
play these games and it's just not fair. What I want to, you don't have a prediction of who you think gonna get it out of all these 14
Not
names?
yet. No.
Not yet.
I
Okay.
have a good idea, but
Okay, okay. I don't want you to put the expose. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to wait to report, and then let me just be very honest with City Council and those of you who are watching us. Once y'all announce who the person is, we're going to really go through and we're going to see if they meet certain criteria. Because what I think the citizens of Wilmington is looking for, they're looking for a person to represent them. The city is not just of a certain district. A city is not of just of a certain persuasion, but a city. This city right here has a lot of issues that are going on, and we have to address them. And I hope that the persons or the person that you all select will be one who really got the city at heart, who's been here, who understand the city. But if you're going to just select a person because it's a person that
it'll
will
fall into
vote,
your agenda.
and according to what you do, I disagree. And not that I have to agree. I can hear you talking through the TV. I don't have to agree, but I'm going to definitely speak against it. And if you think Shanae is talking too much, you don't want to ruffle my feathers, because it's going to get worse. So I just hope and trust that whatever you all decide to do with these 14 names, that it is fair, equitable, and let's, for the first time, prove Shanae wrong. Let's prove her
Please,
wrong.
I would
Let's
love
prove
to
her
be
wrong.
proved wrong.
Let's show her that she's just talking.
I
All
would
right.
love to be proved wrong. I would love for this to be a fair, equitable process. I would love for everyone to feel included. Like that's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, that's the other part is not what I want. So I hope I can be proved wrong, but I can't have high hopes in
Okay.
this council. I'm just being honest.
Well, that's what we want to talk about with the democracy, and we're gonna leave it right there. We're gonna come right back, and I just want to spend a little bit of time honoring and talking about our dear, good councilwoman, Miss Sister Linda Gray, who has gone home to be with the Lord, and we want to spend some time just honoring her. We'll be right back. And we're back. As promised, we want to just take a couple of minutes and talk about our city council woman, Linda Gray, who now I have not had a whole lot of interactions with her, but I had the opportunity to be in her presence several times. And she was that quiet person observing. And I always so I labeled her as the quiet storm, because I know there was a lot of legislation in the background she was working on. So I looked at her as the quiet storm, but you all probably know her better than I.
Yeah, no, what I really appreciated about Councilwoman Gray, prior to me being on council, she was appointed in, right? She filled a vacant seat for the first district. But one of the things that I loved about her was that her spiciness, her spark, right? She was willing to call people out, and I like that, right? I'm that type of person. Like, I'm never gonna play this game with y'all. Like, this is wrong. And another thing that she did and she passed, which I think the public really appreciated about her, was extending public comment to be more community friendly. Like she believed that the public should come and be able to make more comment about what was going on in the process, right? So she did that in the legislative session before me. However, when January 2020 came and it was when I was elected, the seven who took over cut that out. Right? So they cut her legacy out completely out of making sure that people were able to make public comment freely and had more opportunities to do that throughout the council meeting. So like I really appreciated her for that, because it's like that was very like community centered, very community driven, community thinking. Like I want the public to participate, and how do I do that? Like that is the type of public servant we should want in our seats. And even specifically now, me and her talked a lot about housing stuff. She was really big on it. She passed the legislation for down payment assistance for home ownership. I was like, that is going to be impactful to so many people. We're talking about dropping legacy.
Right.
Like I can point out specific legislation that is going to have long-term impact on the city of Wilmington with Linda Gray. So she's going to be missed. She was someone, I guess we bonded on our trauma of being on city council. Because we both felt like we were very outspoken and we didn't fit in with the majority. And so we felt some of the same things, like we were being excluded, we were being shunned, or if our ideas were being held up, so they never even made it to the public on what our idea was. So I'm going to miss her. She was like an ally in a lot of the work that I was doing. We agreed on a lot of things, and when we didn't agree, we were able to have conversations about it. So I appreciate her for that.
Yeah. Really.
Yeah, so Linda is someone who I got to know while we were running against each other. We ran against each other for the first district in 2020, and she won. But kind of after that, we got to know each other while we were running, but we really got to know each other after the election, and work together on projects, especially projects to deal with youth over at the POW, and her one of her biggest things was housing, right? So that down payment, creating the opportunity for first time homeowners to get up to $10,000 to help with down payment on a new property, which brings stability to the community, was one of her big things. But outside of the politics realm, she was just someone who loved to laugh, loved to dance.
Yeah.
I know, during HBCU week, her and her husband, who were married for decades, right? But, in some marriages, you're married, but you may not like each other anymore. Those two were married, but they were still dating.
Harold loved her.
Those
Listen.
two are the embodiment of what Black love should have been, right? What should it be? But they came in during I forget what event it was during HBCU week, but they both had like black leather jackets on, like their biker jackets, and they came to party, right? They came to have fun, and it was date night for them, right? She wasn't there as councilwoman. They were there as a couple enjoying themselves, and I think that's what we need to see more of in our community. And again, we've worked on a lot of projects together, but I think it was the personal relationship that I built afterwards that I'm going to cherish the most. I'm going to miss the most about her. And she was a voice for not only Brandywine Hills, but for the first district. She cared deeply about the first district, and you saw that reflected in her work on council. Even though she hit some blockades, she kept pushing and kept pushing.
Yeah, and she was a judge prior to being on council. And I remember I met one of my constituents and we were talking and she was asking about people on council. And she was like, I know Councilwoman Linda Gray. She sentenced me. Right? Right? No, it ended up actually a great conversation. She was like, I would love to meet her to talk to her about my experience and how I felt being on this side and where I am today. Because she was doing way better in life now. She did feel like her sentencing was unfair because she was a first time offense. But so they had the conversation, and I remember talking to Council Member Linda Gray, and for her to be so reflective around that moment and that conversation with her, to me, shows like she was a person willing to learn and grow from some mistakes she could have made, right? And how she could have negatively impacted someone's life based on a decision she made as a judge, right? So having that conversation with her, it was a beautiful conversation because she really was reflective and was like, I feel really bad that I did that. I was just trying to lay the hammer down, but I didn't think about her never having a criminal record before and then giving her all that time. It was a complicated case, but she was a really good person and reflective and willing to grow.
And most educated people are. And when I say that, no disrespect for those who may not have gotten the university training as others may have, but I just don't know how she worked with the city council. And was she under Hanifa, or she was only under?
She was under
Pretty.
Hanifa.
So how did she get along with her, another sister to with a sister?
Yeah, so there was some friction there when she got appointed and everything, and it came to a spearhead, especially during the 2020 elections. But I think she handled herself in a
Okay.
way that, she made sure she voiced her opposition to things, either at one point calling the former council president, Delaware's Mitch McConnell.
Oh,
But also, I think she handled herself in a way that I think was reflective, and how she handled herself not only on council but off of council.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. I'm gonna miss Linda Gray, Councilwoman Linda
yeah.
Gray. As you said, politically, personally, just being a good person.
Well, I'm grateful that I had an opportunity to meet her as well. I'm glad to hear some wonderful things about her. And I say you talked about her husband as well. 50 plus years married to one woman, had a very strong relationship. This is the kind of modeling we need, and the kind of modeling we need to become familiar with. So I'm really grateful. And to those of you, again, our councilwoman, I think she was in the first district. First district, Linda Gray has transitioned to go home to be with the Lord, and she's lived a good, strong life. A judge in the state and here in the city for many years. Lived in the city, married to her husband for decades. A great woman. We will miss her dearly, and I just hope that as city council is reflecting upon her time of transition, that they would try to find someone like her, will speak up, who will share truth during this time. One more thing I would like to share, and then we're going to go for the day, is Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
This was a great moment to throw that in there, given that we're grateful. All too often, we wait until a person is no longer in our presence before we tell them thank you, before we express our gratitude for them. I ask that during this season, which this week you will be celebrating Thanksgiving, that you would take some time and you would talk and call someone just to say, I appreciate you, just to say thank you. I never, as a macho man, my wife, she called me one day a couple weeks ago and said, baby, I just want to say, I appreciate you. That made me feel real good. It just made me feel real good. I'm like, that's corny, but it made me feel so good. And I want to say to you, it makes all of us feel good when we know that we are appreciated. So call somebody this week. In this time of Thanksgiving, we're giving God thanks. We're giving our time of turkey trimmings and all the good stuff. Call someone who you may have an ought with. Tell them that you appreciate them, you love them, and you're grateful. That's all I have for y'all today. Anything else you want to share?
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and hopefully you enjoy the time with friends and families.
Yes. How about you?
Yeah, same. Happy Thanksgiving. And I know there was a special announcement that was made at City Council in regards to Thanksgiving. This is Norman Oliver's last year doing the turkey giveaway. So Twinbee Brown did it for 50 plus or 40 plus years. He did it for 30, 40 plus years. And they passed the torch on to Ivan Thomas, who's over at DETV, to start heading the turkey giveaway. So I know that's happening sometime this week. So if you need a turkey, kind of, I guess, find that information, and then you'll be able to get a turkey from.
Well, thank you for sharing that information, and get yourself a turkey and little trimmings, and then you can enjoy your Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes.
This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Sinead Darby.
See ya.
Take care, y'all.
Talk soon.